Welcome to the backyard garden. So the biggest difference I think I've noticed this month beyond the cicadas has definitely been the longer shadows and the shorter days. I would normally get most of my filming and my work around the garden space done once the girls are in bed, now that we have bedtimes for the baby worked out. And I'm finding that I'm running out of daylight. By the time I have the girls in bed and I get back outside, it's dark out. So a bunch of the work I had done out in the front, and if you missed that video, make sure to click this here, I had done with a headlamp on, which is what I had resorted to after having my first daughter as well. Just, it was the only time of the day that I could find the time to get out there and really tackle a job. So most of that garden out front was done with a headlamp, in the rain, in the dark, and we got it done. So now the same thing is happening again. But it works, and you find a way, and it's a nice peaceful time for me to spend in my space. But the backyard, I have had to simplify slightly. I'm finding less time and additional responsibilities, and certain things just were not giving me the bang for the buck that I was after. Those being the peppers. We had, I don't know, like close to 20 pepper plants, unfortunately, and I'd mentioned in my last video about we started seeds, they weren't what we thought they were, so then we had just copious amounts of the same amount of pepper. And they were all coming beautifully, lots of peppers, lots and lots and lots. The first few had blossom end rot, chucked those, new ones came through, they looked awesome. But I do believe they were getting a pepper maggot, which was my first time ever having that. They would get little specks on them, and then the whole thing just rotted from the inside out, and they were just gross. And I kept watering them and picking and watering and picking, and I wasn't getting anything worth harvesting. And they were so much space that they were taking up and so much effort, and it got to the point where you've got to count your losses sometimes, and that was one. So cucumber beetles, they ended up getting all of my cucumber plants. They have also attacked my zucchini plants, but at this point we're also zucchinied out, so I'm really not too upset about that. I have one final zucchini that I was just waiting to get to a reasonable size, and then I'm going to pull that one off and get rid of that plant as well because it's looking pitiful. And then our leaf miners originally this spring had got our Swiss chard. They also got my beets, and I managed to keep the Swiss chard alive long enough that we overcame it. And I have beautiful Swiss chard now, and I have to actually cut some and start eating it because it's probably the prettiest Swiss chard I have grown in years. We also have a lot of parsley that I have to pull out and start drying. I've been doing some drying with the calendula as well until I've got a really big batch, so that should be coming up soon. And then I'm going to be making a infused oil with that, and hopefully a hydrosol as well to use over the winter months. Carrots, we've pretty well pulled them all out. I've just got a few left to pull, and for my first year ever really having successful carrots, I'm not too disappointed by our harvest. They're nothing huge, but they're reasonable, and they were quite tasty, and it's something that I might try and do again in a future year, but I have a funny feeling I'd rather use this square foot for something that I enjoy a bit more, but we'll see come next year. Strawberries have been doing so well. Oh my goodness, these guys they keep pumping out new flowers. They've got lots of runners coming out, so I'm starting to get some runners moving into the next grow bag over here. And then what I'm going to do with that is start to transfer them into my gutter gardens once they have some established root systems of their own, and then once again continue propagating them out, because this bag has pretty well packed itself full. Once the calendula comes out, it will have a little bit more real estate, but the calendula is also doing this really nice weeping form, which is leaving a lot of real estate in the bag for the strawberries. Our sunflowers, I mean, they're tiny, but they worked. They did what I was hoping they would do and just jazz it up a little bit, and the pollinators are loving them, so I can't complain. Cucamelons also, with this little stand here, it ended up working out really, really well. We've gotten quite a few cucamelons, still getting more. Turns out my kid doesn't really like them though. Like she thinks that they're really cool. She likes that they look like little watermelons, but she's not too enthused by it, unfortunately. More calendula has taken over here. Our tomatoes, they keep going. They are so tall. They're a good, I'd say 2 feet above the garage now, and I've just let them go. They've, flopped right over. We're still getting a really nice harvest off of those, constant supply. And now that the bottom ones have all been picked, we don't have to worry about our dog Lucy stealing them anymore, or any other critters for that matter, because she keeps the critters out of the yard. In addition to protecting the tomatoes, we have also started to notice that our lawn is experiencing burn spots for the first time in a long time. Since the passing of our other dog, he doesn't have the urine to counteract our female, and we are now starting to get really patchy spots in the lawn despite getting regular rain, where she has been using it for the washroom. Same thing with the strawberries. We don't have to worry about any birds, any critters. We have Lucy, and she protects the entire patch. Once again, more calendula here. And then we have eggplant, and the eggplant is finally coming in, and we have, I believe, three eggplants on here. So I'm probably going to pick them soon and barbecue them up and enjoy those, because the weight of them, it's just pulling the whole plant over, the poor thing. And then I had some buckets and things against the fence line, and just to ease up and make it easier for cutting the grass instead of having to cut around so many things, I unwove our morning glory and moved everything over to this table here. And we've also acquired a new addition of a papaya, and this thing has grown. When we got it, it was half the height, and it is loving the recent weather that we've been having and is doing so incredibly well. I have heard though that papaya is, you either have a male plant or a female plant, and I have no experience with it, so we're gonna have to see what we get out of it. But it's fun. It's always fun to try something new. The other big issue we've been having back here is wasps. The apple tree is it has so many apples. We've been really hoping to get up there and pick them and bring them all down to kind of ease up on the amount that will fall, because it's actually becoming quite dangerous to sit underneath the apple tree right now, and that is the only really enjoyable place to be sitting. So it's something that we definitely have to be weary of. We've already filled up both of our composters and the trunk of the tree, and now we're gonna have to start putting them out for yard waste at the curb, because there's just apples galore, and the apples just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like they're a really good size. Like they're quite sizable, and when they fall, they hurt. So it's not the most fun. Our teepee has also done really quite beautifully. It's filled in nicely. The runner beans are giving off so many flowers. I'm seeing all sorts of pollinators on them, and we have no beans, not one, which is so incredibly disappointing. And I'm not sure what I'm necessarily doing wrong with it. I keep hoping and hoping, fertilizing, hoping maybe I will get some beans by the end of it, but I was really looking forward to having, and there goes an apple now, to get some scarlet runner beans out of that. And it's just not. But the cardinal vine is doing well. The morning glory is also starting to finally work its way up, and it's been fun. Kid, once again, didn't work out as planned. She doesn't want to go underneath it. She doesn't want to hang out in it. But it's been nice to just have a bit of balance of green by the porch, besides the grow bag that is on the other side of the stairs. So to have them kind of playing off of each other and just adding a bit more green against the house in a temporary fashion is awesome. And once they're done, I will probably repurpose it for something like Christmas decorations, maybe even Halloween decorations, popping it back out front. So it's not at all a wasted project, and I could definitely make use of it for growing pole beans or something else, or even squash next year, because it has stood up beautifully. It has withstood all of our storms, and it's just worked out beautifully. Our barrel that we have over here as well, the dahlias are just, they're popping. I actually made my first ever cut flower bouquet from flowers from my own garden. I'm the sort that much prefers to leave my flowers in the garden, and that way I can enjoy them for what feels like a longer period of time, and the pollinators get to use them, and then the seed heads. And dahlias, they're more of an annual, so they are a bit different. And what I didn't realize is when you cut a dahlia, it makes 2 to 3 times as many blooms for that one that you cut. So you want to cut them. Dahlias, if you want cut flowers, dahlias are totally the plant for you, because they give and they give and they give. So I was really quite disappointed by the dahlia blooms because they kind of petered out in July, and they are knocking my socks off now, and I'm going to keep cutting them and keep making more bouquets out of them because they're beautiful and they're fairly hardy little flowers. I combined them with a few of the roses and coneflowers out front, and I was quite pleased with myself. And corn. I had popped in a whole bunch of corn along our one fence line and didn't expect anything of it. I know that you need multiple corn to get proper pollination. We only had one plant actually show up though. So once again, wasn't expecting anything great, but it ended up surprising me, and I got two little two ears of corn on this plant, and they were small, they weren't doing great, but they looked like they were actually developing a bit. So I went in, checked to see if they were ready, popped it off, and it did not have full and proper pollination. It was by no means edible, but the ones that did pollinate were beautiful. So it's definitely one that we would like to try more of next year, especially up at our raised beds. I think it's going to be a really fun to get like a whole patch of corn over there. And it was so low maintenance. Like, I didn't water it, I didn't do anything to it. So I can only imagine how much better it would do with a little bit of care. It would probably give some beautiful corn, and corn on the cob is something that we look forward to eating every single year. I think just about everybody in Southern Ontario probably does. Like, to see all those little stands on the side of the road, it's just, it screams what this season is, and being able to harvest directly from the farm. So it was fun, and it's definitely one that is being added to the list. And speaking of the list, we have started thinking ahead already to next year, looking at what our failures are, looking at what our successes are, and then starting to plan for the future seasons, whether that be succession planting, which is not something I typically do. I find the fall just gets too busy, but this year I would like to give it a try. Since I'm home, I'm on mat leave. In theory, I will have some time. So I would like to tackle a bit of succession planting out here. I have never done garlic, and it's something that I definitely want to be trying out. And then putting in a few other leafy greens. I love lettuce, I love salad, so being able to pop a few of those in without having it all bolt on me is also going to be quite nice. So we're going to try that out, and then planning and just thinking through what, like for height and for what did I actually make use of, what do I actually eat. Enough of maybe the novelty plants that I plant every single year just because that's what you can plant at that time, and really focusing on what does our family buy when we go to the grocery store, and then replacing that with what can we grow. So that is what I hope to accomplish with this space, and really just up the bounty every single year. And you know, one thing is actually plant pepper plants that we're going to use and that we're really going to enjoy. And then a different variety of tomatoes as well. We had pretty much just one type of tomato all the way through because that's the seeds that I had on hand because of COVID this spring. I really didn't get spontaneous or crazy with my seed selections, and I would like a bit more variety. It's starting to get tired of the same old tomato. So that would be our backyard space. So once again, if you haven't checked out the video for our front yard space, make sure to click up here and it will take you over there, and you can see what we're doing in the front yard versus the backyard, and hopefully you will be inspired and figure out what you can work into your space to get some four-season blooms in Southern Ontario. For the rest of the series, we have been doing a monthly garden tour every single month so far this year. You can click on these videos here and it will take you over to that, and you can see how it has progressed month over month. And we hope we'll see you next month. Thanks for watching.